So here's part 2 of my net term wholesale vendor list. And for those of you that may not have seen part 1, I'll definitely be sure to link it up here as well as down in the description box. But those net term vendors are the ones that you can order from right now and then pay them later.
She's an icon, she's a legend, and she is the moment. Now come on now.
What's up, icons? It's the iconic fashion figure, and we're going into part 2 of our wholesale vendor list for net term clothing vendors. And if you don't know what net terms is all about, you can watch part 1. I explained it all there. So let's go ahead and just jump right into this vendor list. Now, our first wholesale vendor, I'm excited to give this one to you. I thought I gave it in a video before. Maybe I already have, but if I haven't, I apologize for gatekeeping on this one. But vendor number 1 is Free People Wholesale. And I'm sure most of you know who Free People is. If you don't know the brand Free People, basically Free People is owned by Urban Outfitters. You probably know who Urban Outfitters is. But yes, you can buy wholesale from Free People if I haven't mentioned this one already. Just keep in mind, Free People does sell retail, and they also sell their clothing in a lot of the major retailers too. Definitely a lot of the department stores. But if you want it at your boutique, you can sell it also. Now, I do want to be clear that not everyone will get approved to buy wholesale from Free People. As I was looking through their application process, it looks like brick and mortar has a higher chance, but it didn't say that you couldn't be an online only retail store to apply. It did give the option that if you were online only, you can select that. Just seems like brick and mortar would be a little easier, but don't be discouraged by that. Online only can still apply. But the purpose of this video is for net terms, and Free People offers net 30 terms. Now, in this video, most of these vendors are a little harder to get approved for, so you'll definitely want to watch part 1 first. Apply and get approved for those net terms on those vendors first, so that way you have references for when you apply for these harder ones, because a lot of them require references. For example, Free People, for one, requires a bank reference, which basically means putting in your business bank account information on the application. They also require 3 trade references, so that's why I say watch part 1 first. Get approved for those vendors, shop with those to build up a relationship with those vendors, and then apply for these because you can use those vendors as your 3 trade references. Basically, they want references to see that you have credit lines established with other brands and that your relationship is in good standing with those brands before they'll approve you at Free People and a lot of these other brands that are in this video. So for Free People, they need 3 trade references, and then of course you have to complete their full credit application. The one thing I didn't mention in part 1 also is that not everyone gets approved for net terms, but I don't want you to get discouraged and not apply for those brands. A lot of times, if you still shop those brands that you want net terms with, in the first couple orders, maybe even just the first order only, you pay with the credit card and they see that you can pay for your orders, then just because you build up a relationship with that brand already, you may get approved for those terms. So still apply for these brands as a buyer. Even if you can't get the net terms yet, build up a relationship with them, and then eventually you should be able to get those net terms. But let's jump into vendor number 2. Number 2 is going to be In Your Face Apparel. And this is another one of those blanks apparel wholesale vendors. So for men's and women's, you get like the t-shirts and hoodies and things that you can print on. I've noticed a lot of those vendors tend to offer net terms, but those are usually the vendors that a lot of buyers buy in bulk because they're printing their graphics on those garments. And speaking of printing, In Your Face Apparel does offer multiple different types of printing options, so that way you can customize the garments directly with them. As far as their MOQ, it was set by the item. So like one of the items I looked at had a 72 piece minimum order quantity amount, but each item, if you look at it, it has an MOQ listed. Now, the good thing about In Your Face, for those of you that do not have a license, In Your Face Apparel did not require an account to shop on there. So I would assume you can buy off of there without having a license, since it allows you to shop without even signing up for an account. And They also offer drop shipping. And there were some rules and stipulations into the drop shipping, so I highly encourage you to read into that because there were like some fees you'll want to know about. And as far as their terms, they didn't go into too much detail in the terms other than that they offer net 30 terms. Vendor number 3 is called Lane 7. They are also one of those blanks wholesale vendors. Now Lane 7 does require a resale certificate to apply. As far as applying for an account, not even net terms yet, but just an account in general of Lane 7, it can take 2 to 3 business days before you are approved, but they have no MOQ on their website. Now Lane 7 does offer net terms. I believe the length of your net terms is based off of your approval. They'll let you know how long your terms are for. Just keep in mind with Lane 7, the approval can take several days before you're approved. Going into vendor number 4 is called Cool Creative, and this is a men's and women's streetwear wholesale vendor. I saw a lot of like varsity jackets or Letterman jackets, whichever one you want to call it. Cool Creative does sell retail, but they have the option to buy wholesale from them as well. Now as far as the payment terms, they offer net 30 terms. An EIN is required when filling out their credit application. 2 trade references is required when filling out their application, and then your bank information is required as well. And when you're putting in that bank information, make sure you have a business bank account first. I highly encourage you to open up a business bank account if you haven't already, and make sure that's the information you're providing when you're giving that banking information. Vendor number 5 is Star T. This is also men's and women's wholesale blanks, so you have apparel and accessories I believe are on there too, because I want to say this one had hats. Star T is a men's and women's wholesale blanks vendor. They do sell retail, and in order to set up an account with this vendor, you couldn't do it directly on the website. You have to call or email them to get set up, and a resale certificate is required. Star T offers net 30 terms, and make sure you fill out the credit application for Star T. I believe it's linked on their website that you can download it from. And then trade references and bank information are both required on their credit application. Wholesale vendor number 6 is Zigzag Asian Collection. This is a women's wholesale vendor selling clothing and accessories, and then there were also home goods on there as well. And I know it's called the Asian Collection, but it is based in California, so this is a US based wholesale vendor. Actually, all the ones I'm giving you in this video are all based in the US. They do have a $200 minimum order amount. Now, before you can use their net terms, that very first order you place requires for you to use a credit card. So you have to use a credit card on your first order, then you can use their payment terms. Now, they do some pre-orders, and when it comes to pre-orders over the amount of $3,000, 30% is due up front, so you have to do a 30% deposit on orders $3,000 or more. And then as far as their net terms, they didn't specify their net terms. The only reason I know that they offer net terms is because in their terms fine print, I guess you would call it, it specifies that 10% interest would be due for every 28 days past your invoice due date. So if you're late paying that invoice, they do charge a 10% interest every 28 days that you are late. So I do know that they offer payment terms, they just didn't give much detail about the payment terms. Vendor number 7 might not be for everyone, but I do want to share because I know there's some of you that sell different products. But wholesale vendor number 7 is Desden, and they offer wholesale collegiate handbags. So a lot of the handbags come in like the college colors, and I think you can put the college logos on there as well. They do sell retail, but then they offer wholesale as well if you're buying in bulk. For the wholesale purchases, a $250 opening order minimum is required, and you have to use a credit card on your first order. For every order after your first order, it's a $100 minimum for each order, and most of their items comes in pre-packs of 4, so you will get 4 handbags per pre-pack. As far as their payment terms, they offer net 30 terms, and on their website where it talks about their net terms, it tells you to download the credit application so you can fill out that form and send it back into them, but there was nowhere to actually download the form. It's almost like they forgot to link it on that page. So I encourage you or recommend, if you're interested in net terms with Desden, to just email them and request a copy of that credit application so you can send it back to them. Vendor number 8 is Staton, and this is a men's, women's, and kids blanks apparel wholesale vendor. This is another vendor where you couldn't set up your account online. You have to call them to establish an account first. Then you can fill out the credit application to apply for those payment terms. And when it comes to their payment terms, they offer net 15 and net 30. And those payment terms are subject to approval. So it depends what they approve you for. You might get approved for 15, you might get approved for 30. Your banking information is required, and 4 credit references or 4 trade references is required on the credit application in order to be approved. Vendor number 9 is Silver Stars collection. I wanted to throw in at least one wholesale accessory vendor in here, and Silver Stars offers all jewelry, and they're actually using real gold according to their description. Like some of the products I was looking at was listed as 14 karat gold. A resale certificate and an EIN is required to establish an account with Silver Star. They have a $100 minimum opening order and then $50 for reorders. Silver Star's collections offers net 30 terms. Now they do have some requirements. You have to be in business at least 1 year in order to qualify for net terms. You have to provide 4 trade references. Make sure you complete the entire credit application before sending that in, and then expect at least 6 to 8 weeks for approval on your credit application. Now these next couple vendors I've given in a previous video, but I wasn't talking about their net term, so I'm going to reshare these vendors and then just let you know their requirements for the net term, since we didn't talk about that previously. So this next one you probably all are familiar with, even if you didn't learn from it from my videos, but vendor number 10 is Bella and Canvas. If you don't know about Bella and Canvas, you can check out the previous video, same with these other ones, to see their type of product and know more about their approval process. But as far as their net terms, Bella Canvas actually doesn't even talk about their payment terms other than that they offer payment terms, and it tells you to email their sales team for their payment terms. Vendor number 11 is Sanmar. Again, check out the previous video if you want to know more about Sanmar, but as far as their payment terms, Sanmar offers net 30 terms, but there are some requirements to get approved for their terms. You have to fill out the complete credit application and send that back into them. They ask for trade references. I feel like their application had 3 on there, maybe 4. You have to provide your banking information as well. They also had a section in their credit application called personal guarantee. Now it didn't ask for your personal social security number, which is good, but it basically made you sign off saying that you were personally liable to pay back any invoices you owe should your business not pay them back. And then their credit application process can take 1 to 5 business days. And the last vendor for this video, vendor number 12, is Independent Trading Co., which is another vendor I provided in a previous video. Check out that video if you would like to know more about Independent Trading Co. But as far as their net terms, they offer net 30 terms, and they do have a credit application that you have to fill out, but they didn't have it actually on their website. You have to contact them for a copy of the credit application and then send that back into them. So those are all the wholesale vendors that offer net terms that I'm going to provide in this video, part 2 of the net term vendors. If you would like to know more net term wholesale vendors, definitely check out part 1 if you haven't already. And if you guys need a part 3, I'll definitely do part 3. And then for those of you that are afraid to apply for net terms because it sounds scary, because it does sound like you're applying for like a credit card or a loan or something, which is really not that bad. But if you're afraid to apply for those just yet, or you're not quite ready for net terms, you prefer to do like the traditional pay in 4, where you would pay that first installment the day of and then every 2 weeks after that with like Afterpay or Klarna or any of those type of companies. If you want wholesale vendors that offer those options, I can do that video as well. Just know that those aren't ones that you are truly paying the full balance in later, because that first payment is due the day of. But I can do a wholesale vendor list for those pay in 4 vendors if you would like. But that's it for this week's video. Thank you guys for watching.